We're live.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Will and Mark's Healthy Sports Obsession. I'm Will Huebner here with Mark Mashashik. Today we got a great show. We're bringing on a special guest, Alex Cruz, today. We're very excited to have Alex on the show. He's going to be answering a couple of our patient questions, or at least one. He's kind of the Kinesiotape guy.
We're bringing him in to talk about Kinesiotape, but he's also in the podcast league, and he's a great PT, so we're going to pick his brain on some of the stuff that he's doing in PT right now.
Exactly. So we're also going to go talk about a couple patient questions, muscle memory, taping. We're going to talk about ankle sprains today. High ankle sprain for Saquon. We're going to talk about low ankle sprains, midfoot sprains. What does that really mean? Today's the first day we're doing a Facebook Live video as we podcast.
So yeah, if you guys are listening to the podcast at home and you want the visual, we don't have all the optics perfect yet, but you can pop on Facebook and this will be posted on there. You can watch it there too if you want.
Exactly. So we have an ankle model that we'll be using. It may just make the health part a little bit easier to explain some things.
We've got a bootleg model. It's we have a humerus for our fibula.
Yeah,
it'll make it work.
And then we're also going to be talking about a little bit of baseball today. We're going to, especially with the Nationals in the playoff hunt. It looks like if they do make it, well, they'll definitely, because the Braves clinched, there'll be a wild card game, and we're going to talk about who should start that game for the Nationals.
Let's talk about it.
First thing first, though, let's talk about Glory Days. We were there this past Sunday.
This was Glory Days Alexandria on Duke Street. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was a great time.
Everybody had a blast.
So we will be there one more time, definitely, next week. Next Sunday, we'll be there 11:30ish when kind of we start our Facebook live stream. We take comments, we take patient questions.
And we'll have some October dates probably too. We just don't have them sorted out yet. If anyone has a favorite sports bar and they want to host Will and Mark's Healthy Sports Obsession for a Sunday, throw it at us in an email and we'll talk to them. We'd love to see you out there.
Yeah. So there were a couple of side bets. We want to talk about the side bets that we made.
Yes.
From the Facebook Live videos, you'll see. So we had a bet Jets, I said, would cover the 21.5 spread against your homeboy Patriots.
Yep.
And it looked very bleak after the first half.
Agreed.
But late defensive touchdowns really helped us get in there. We're just looking at comments here. Albert Pinoni saying that he's getting in his HSO for the night. So we'll be commenting on the Facebook Live comments as we go.
Albert, we saw him out there at Glory Days this weekend. It's always good to see good PTs come out and talk PT with us.
Yep.
So yeah, the Jets. So let's talk about it. The Pats did not cover with the defensive touchdowns. I just didn't believe that Falk was going to have any gumption in him. He didn't. I'll give it to you.
Yeah, all right.
You beat me on the bet. What do I owe you?
$1 million. I don't know.
I think it's a beer and a half.
The other one we made two bets.
Yep.
You thought that it was going to be the sloppy weather of the Ravens and Chiefs was going to make it a low-scoring game. I said I thought it would be around 60-ish, I think. You said it was going to be like 38. We split the hairs.
I moved it up to 41.
Okay. We split it. We said 50. I won that one as well with 59.
60. It was 61. It was 61. The winner of the contest picked 59. That's why I won. You were very close to winning the contest, too. He beat you with the 59. You picked 50. He picked 59. You both picked the same amount of picks. Yeah, well, I got the weather report wrong. Man, you're eating me up. I owe you a couple beers. It's wrong on that one. I thought the rain would slow him down a little bit more.
Well, let's get right into our first patient question. This one comes from Tom from Severna Park, Maryland. First question he has, how long does muscle memory last? And is it true if you don't use it, you lose it? I believe a classic 40-year-old virgin line there.
Yes.
So good line on that one. Nice little laugh. But let's get into it, Mark. What muscle memory, how long does it last?
So the answer to the second part of the question is yes. So when we think of muscle memory, it's not your muscle doesn't have a memory. Your brain has a representation of how it remembers your muscle moving and what motions it did. So obviously your brain consists of a bunch of neurons, and it has a distribution of those neurons can be perceived through something we call the sensory homunculus. So things that we use a lot, like our tongues and our mouths and our hands, our brains have a lot of neurons that are distributed to it. Things that we don't use as much, like our toes, have a smaller distribution of the homunculus. So if you Google sensory homunculus, you'll see this really creepy looking little guy, and that's sort of how our brain sees our bodies. So if you don't use something, like for the example, let's say we use our toes less, you won't be able to control those toes as well anymore. You should be able to if you were living somewhere where it was a safe environment to be barefoot and you were using your toes for gripping and moving all the time. Your toe homunculus would be much greater, and you'd be able to use your toes in a similar way to we use our fingers because we do a lot of typing and we do a lot of manipulation with our hands. People who use their feet a lot will have a stronger control of those parts of their body. So they did a study where they taped someone's fingers. They took all 5 fingers and they taped them, and they did functional MRI imaging of their brain, and they noticed in a very short period of time, an hour or so, those changes were already starting to be seen, and within a day, your brain could no longer, if you kept your fingers taped together, your brain could no longer tell the difference between each finger anymore. So it's a very short period of time. Obviously, it's to the level of that you have been manipulating it. So right now, my fingers would be easier to regain back than my feet would be if I stopped using them for a couple days. But if you don't use it, you will lose it. That goes for all of your body. That's why we say motion is lotion. Motion's your friend. Physical therapy, we promote safe and healthy motion so that you don't lose it. We do treatment to get you moving, TNF to keep it moving, and then you give you some home exercises to continue it moving. Would you, good explanation?
I agree. I think there's a lot of, what are the keywords? Like neural tags, right? They talk about these tagging, these neural connections that you make. You know, if you do the same, say you have a tennis swing, right? And you're doing the same top spin forehand over and over and over and over and over again. You kind of create this muscle memory. Your body knows how to do it. You can do it effectively. Now, say someone like me, right? Like I played in high school, and now haven't played maybe once or twice the last 5, 6, 7 years. So if I go back and I try to hit a topspin, well, I just don't have that same muscle memory that I had as when I was doing it over and over and over again.
But they say it's like riding a bike. You can get there faster.
I still have those neural tags.
I would say, pathways. You have the pathways are there. They're very weak, and you can get them back quicker once you learn to do something.
So similarly, like someone with, let's say, back pain, right? Now, say they're not using their core as much, right? Like this neural connections are still there. It just needs to be tapped into, some facilitation.
But I would say lower back is one of probably the smallest things on the homunculus. It's this little tiny lower back. And you look at people who come in with these steel cables for paraspinals, and they don't know that they don't know they can or are supposed to move their back. Ribcage people too. People don't understand that the ribcage is supposed to have a lot of motion and move. It's not just a rigid thing and your low back and your neck move. So 100% motor memory is very, very important to keeping your body healthy and moving.
It was interesting that study you were talking about where they taped the fingers together. So they lost that part of the homunculus, right? That the functional MRI showed decreased activity to those areas, but other areas were being used even more. So you started getting a change in the homunculus, right? Like
why the old blind man? Why he can hear the fly flying 3 stories away? Because his occipital lobe, which is what we usually use for vision, is utilizing other senses. That really is true. We get improved other sensory changes if we lose one.
So is it true? I mean, you're saying you can, if you don't use it, you lose it. Agreed, but you can tap back into that. That neural connection's still there. We just got to facilitate and tap back into that to get you back on the right track.
Right. Yeah. As long as you have the facilities to do it. In the case of if your optic nerve never developed, we wouldn't be able to tap back into that. But yes, those things we tap back into, and we can develop other things if it's not. Motion is lotion. Keep moving. Don't overdo it. Healthiest people are not. Marathon runners sometimes wear out a little fast.
Well, that hardens their arteries. That's what the research is showing.
It also beats the heck out of their knees. Now they're getting knee replacements at 50, and then you start losing motion. So the healthiest people, aggressive walkers.
With the marathon runners, there's a TED Med talk that talks about this cardiologist. Like one of his best friends was a marathon runner, died, and he did all this research on trying to figure it out. He said when they did imaging, it looked as if this marathon runner had smoked for 50 years. Said he'd never seen arteries and plaques that hard and that much like clogging his arteries, and he couldn't believe it. This guy ate healthy, ran every single day, and he was saying there's, just like you were saying, there's just a limit of how much you want to run. I think if you're running more than 50 miles a week is
we're not telling people not to run marathons. You should run marathons if you want to do it as a goal. If you run them every day, I mean, first of all, you're a different David Goggins type of human being. I'm not going to say that's not good for you, but I would say the older patients that I have the healthiest reported that they were low stress, very active, not killing their body people.
Yeah. Right. Agreed.
That was a side note.
Okay. Well, let's move on. Good question, Tom.
Great question.
Tom has another question.
Tom from where?
Severna Park, Maryland.
Severna Park. Tom from Severna Park.
He has another question, but we're going to leave that one to Alex Cruz, a little bit more the expert on that field. So let's go into ankle sprains. So big news, Saquon. Everybody saw him leaving with a walking boot and using crutches. Turns out to be a high ankle sprain. They're saying he's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks. So
how bittersweet for Giants fans, first of all.
Well, Daniel Jones comes in, has a great game. They finally win.
Danny Dimes goes off, they win, and they lose their franchise player to a somewhat significant injury here.
Is Danny Dimes his nickname?
I think so.
Did you make that up? Okay, that's fine.
Google it.
It's a good nickname. If you did make it up, I give you credit.
I don't know who I heard say this, but Daniel cannot be your name if you're a professional quarterback. I think you have to be Danny.
Can you think of any other Daniels?
Daniel seems like an accountant.
Can you think of any professional athlete with that goes by the name Daniel?
No.
Daniel House? Isn't there a Daniel House?
That
I think
sounds
plays
right. That sounds right.
Like a role player on the old Lakers team, maybe.
No, yeah, my accountant's name is Daniel. Danny Dimes. If it's not a thing already, we're making it a thing.
So they finally won a game. I made a joke with you. It looks like the Giants are better without Saquon because they finally won a game.
Not funny.
Not funny. But yeah, bittersweet. So talk to us a little bit about a high ankle sprain. Why is a high ankle sprain? A lot of people think of an ankle sprain, just tape it up. You always see athletic trainers on the sideline taping people's foots, taping them, their cleats, giving them a little bit of stability there. What's so different about a high ankle sprain that it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks for him to come back?
So let's just go through the low ankle sprain first because it's simpler. Most people get a low ankle sprain. We've got a bootleg foot here for the Facebook Live people. We're going to explain it a little bit for the podcast people, but this is a humerus. We're going to pretend it's the fibula. Your foot rolls to the outside like that, and this ligament here called the ATFL usually tears. Sometimes one in the back called the CFL can also be damaged. Basically, you get the talus back tracking, you manage how much damage there is, get the swelling out, get it moving. You can tape it up and go back in on that a lot. The problem with a high ankle sprain is a high ankle sprain. What occurs is this is your talus here. Your talus is in the middle of the lower bones of your foot. So you've got your tibia that sits over it and your fibula that sits outside of it. What happens with a high ankle sprain is the foot is aggressively externally rotated and it spreads. The talus turning inside of that joint spreads the fibula and tibia and causes an instability of the two bones of the lower leg, which sometimes needs surgical management. It doesn't look like that's the case for Saquon. But we've seen people do a lot better with high ankle sprains recently, but in the past, some people, these linger. It's hard to regain that stability. There is literally a damage to the bones separating apart the tibia and the fibula.
Right. So a low ankle sprain, like you're saying, so that ATFL, we're talking about anterior tibiofibular or talofibular ligament, excuse me. So we're talking about kind of that front outside part. So like you're saying, it's an inversion sprain. The ankle rolls inward, the ankle kind of rolls inward, and you end up spraining that part of your ligament. That in itself, I mean, you could easily tape that up to give it a little bit of stability, and a lot of people do that and can get through a game. You do some rehab, you do what you can, and you can get back in there.
Those are the ones you usually see players come back with. Doesn't mean they can be severe too. I mean,
right, yeah. But that's what you mostly think of. Oh, ankle sprain. Okay, let me take a week or two off, and I'll be good to go. For the average person, professional football player, let's tape them up. Everything we can, we'll get them on the field somehow.
Right.
High ankle sprain. Now you're talking about those two bones, that instability, right?
And we saw that the Alabama team was doing a lot of surgeries to get these guys to play.
Yeah. What did they call it? Not a tightrope, but a
tightrope. Yeah.
Is it called tightrope? Tightrope surgery. Yeah. So basically, there's a syndesmosis, a sheath that goes between the tibia and the fibula.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, when that foot really goes into that big external rotation, goes out to the side like that, it can twist and start to separate a little bit of that.
Tears the syndesmosis.
Exactly.
It tears the sheath. So they drill two little holes in, and they put these little tight wires to solid it up. I mean, Alabama is known for being overly aggressive with their players. So
I mean, they said Jonah Williams had it, the offensive lineman for and Jalen Hurts. But the offensive lineman had it for the Bengals. He was able to play. I believe it was 19 days later. He was playing, and if you look at the tape, he looked incredible. I mean, he
Right.
was the first-round pick, I believe, right? Jonah Williams,
And
first-round
he's
pick.
now out for the year.
And now he's torn his ACL, so we don't know if is there a connection there? There may be. We don't want to speculate on that.
Yeah. We can speculate. We haven't put enough thought into that yet, though.
But yeah, so now you're talking about those two bones that are going to give you a little bit of stability. The connection between the two of them have now been lost. So now you got a weak ankle, a little bit of an unstable ankle, but also that bone or those two bones also connect to the knee. So
It's a bummer for Saquon. He's such a warrior. I think he'll be fine, but I think it'll be closer to that longer. I think we're going to be at 8 weeks, and I'm gonna go ahead and assume you're gonna say maybe 8 weeks. Maybe it's gonna be 10. It's a bummer.
Anytime you're talking about an ankle sprain, you start worrying about the ligaments in the knee. Like if the ankle doesn't, just like anything, it's just part of the chain. So if that ankle's a little bit unstable, now the knee's gonna
a weak link in the chain can cause everything to blow up. If you're a Giants fan, how do you feel today? I still
honestly,
feel
I feel good. You got to win.
They're not going to go to the Super Bowl this year, but you figure you got Saquon and Danny Dimes next year. You could start to build something.
It was a case of who's worse, the Dolphins or the Giants. Clearly, Giants just took a step above the Dolphins.
They got their guy. They gambled, and everyone said they were wrong, and it's looking right.
So we talked about a high ankle sprain. That's kind of the more severe one that Saquon has, 6 to 8 weeks, could be even longer. We talked about low ankle sprain. You can kind of tape that up. It's much quicker. Let's talk about Cam Newton, who's already been ruled out for week 4, and he's been said to have had a midfoot sprain.
And we said this before, that feet in football players are usually bad news if you're trying to rush back.
Unless your name is Hollywood Brown.
Well, no, that's not true. Hollywood had surgery to stabilize his midfoot in the offseason and came back and played great. A lot of these in-season midfoot injuries, they're super lingerers. Basically, a little bit different injury. Here is the midfoot, and what happens is I'm not hitting the camera here. So what happens is usually the player will land with their toe on the ground, and all their body weight will come down on them like that, and they'll get instability between the metatarsals, which are the finger-like bones, and the tarsus itself. It can, in cases, lead to something called a Lisfranc fracture, which would require surgery, or it sounds like Cam just has a little instability in that area. And it's bad enough where he's missing multiple weeks. And now I just saw an article, is this the end for Cam? Is Kyle Allen looking good enough where they'd say, I can't believe that to be true, that Superman would be on the way out, but...
The way out of never playing in the NFL again, or never playing with the Panthers.
What if Kyle Allen keeps going? I don't think it's an article I saw. It's not my opinion. I think Cam will be back. I'm worried that it will continue to linger. His teammate Greg Olsen had it 2 years ago. It was lingering the entire season. You'd see him limping on the field, and he ended up having surgery in the offseason. So tough ones. Starting quarterback for the Panthers, week 16. We got 15. Let's say 15. Oh,
Cam Newton.
Cam Newton.
I just a little caveat here. I think it's ridiculous when fans get so into the moment that they don't often see the big picture, and it's easy to do, right? But that's ridiculous. You got Cam Newton, multiple-time Pro Bowler, still I think one of the most talented quarterbacks out there. He goes down, and Kyle Allen, who I think could be a good football player, but he has one good game.
Undrafted free agent.
One good game that we've seen, and now we're considering that he's better than Cam Newton. Same thing, Daniel Jones. I think the difference between Daniel Jones and Eli Manning is that Eli Manning is kind of at the end of his career and he's starting to fade. Cam's still in the prime of his career, I would say.
But he's been hurt every year.
Correct. But I still think he's your guy. He's still your franchise quarterback.
I agree.
I think a lot of other teams would be pouncing at the bit to get Cam Newton if they said, Kyle Allen's our guy. We're going to see a trade for somebody to get Cam Newton.
Oh, my God, yes.
But he went to, Auburn? But he has ties to Florida, right? Like a Miami guy?
He went to Florida with Tim Tebow. They both backed up Chris Leak. I think he got in some legal trouble. He stole some laptops. Kicked out of Florida. Junior college, won the junior college national championship undefeated. On to Auburn, won the Heisman. I think that might have been the most impressive college season I ever remember watching. He did look in the national championship. It just looked like he could do whatever he wanted. Like he could pick, do I want to run or pass, and it was easy.
Yeah. Another guy, if we can just go off on tangents for a little bit.
Sure.
I don't have him in fantasy in any. I refuse to take him. But Leonard Fournette, I've been saying this since last year. The guy is overrated. He is not a very good running back. He is talented, but injuries take tolls on him, and he just doesn't. I don't see him as like that. He doesn't fight. He's not like that fighting guy. We saw in college there was a big deal about him not playing in the bowl games. He chose, I'm not willing to risk any injuries. You saw him with some injuries last year, and he chose to sit out longer game. Like, he wants to be fully healthy. I just don't think you can be fully healthy in the NFL and play consistently. And he looked bad this last game.
He ripped off a big one. The offensive line looked worse than he did, in my opinion. But I 100% agree. I feel like he's a guy who likes to feel 100%. And
I've seen enough of him at this point to say he's not my guy. If I'm Jacksonville, I'm saying we can get a better running back in there. It's probably not the worst part of your team.
I'll give it another week.
Cornerback might be the worst part of your team after
Jalen Ramsey called in sick today. He literally called in sick to practice.
Did you hear what the Ravens offered him?
No.
I was a little bummed. So I've been saying, talking with my brother, saying Ravens secondary, so we're going to get exploited, especially against the Chiefs. Like, we're going to see how bad our secondary is. We lost Jimmy Smith. We got Earl Thomas back there. He didn't look great that last game against the Chiefs. But anyways, I think Jalen Ramsey would be a huge piece. He's also got that.
What you didn't say what they offered. What did they offer?
So they offered 2 first rounds, and they offered a former first rounder, Hayden Hurst, my guy, and Jaguars, no interest.
I think they want a higher first round pick. I think the Ravens are too good. That's the problem. I think you're
getting essentially 3 first round picks.
Yeah, but Hurst. We know we got the bet Hurst against Andrews. I don't think Hurst is performing at. I'd say maybe they flipped. Maybe his value would be more 3rd or 4th at this point if we went back and looked at it.
When I read what the Ravens were giving up, I said that I think we got lucky that we didn't give up that much to get him.
Probably, and he could be a headache too.
But he's kind of like that. I don't know. I see him as confident. I don't see him as like an off the field issue guy. Like, I wouldn't mind having a guy like that on my team. He thinks he's going to get an interception against every quarterback. That's confidence.
But he is a bait. If he doesn't, he's complaining because they're not winning. He says he wants to play on a team that's winning. I think they're going to try to trade him to the Dolphins. They're going to say, we're going to trade you to the Dolphins, not the Dolphins, because they're loading up. But I think they're going to try to get him to a bad team. What do we got next?
We're going to talk about baseball a little bit.
A couple other injuries. Hilton hurt his quad. We don't really know what it is. Edelman's ribs should be fine. We covered Cam and Allen. Jordan Reed, they're saying too many concussions. He's had a lot of bad ones. I can't remember the count, but it's like 6 or 7. We know Gronkowski said he's had 20 and they were not all reported. I am all for it. He's got a little change in his pocket. Go Redskins, but I don't want to see him get sick. I don't want to see him get hurt. That hit was an illegal hit, and it was bad, and I feel bad for him. But good luck to you. Do your best. But
so you don't see him ever playing a football game again?
I think it's going to be his. I don't think it's healthy for him to, but it's up to him. I really think that different people are just genetically set up to handle concussions differently. I think some people can get 5 and it just really doesn't have a major effect on their mentality, and some people can just get 1 or 2 and it really has a long cognitive effect on them. I don't have research to back that up. It's just something anecdotal I've seen in people who've had a lot of concussions and people who've had a few. Bummer. Get better, Jordan.
What was that movie? Is it Friday Night Lights? What was the one with
Varsity Blues?
Dawson's Creek guy? Yeah, Varsity Blues. And remember, he couldn't get that 3rd concussion. He would die if he got that 3rd concussion.
I love the
offensive lineman guy.
They did a spoof movie. Remember the spoof movies were big at one point? I can't remember the spoof movie, but they did that movie, and the lineman got a concussion, and they said the coach goes, "Can he play?" And the athletic trainers say, "Sir, coach, he's unconscious. I didn't ask for your medical mumbo jumbo. I said, can he play?" And they tape him to the 2 linemen next to him, and he's in the game unconscious. Not funny. Don't play with concussions, kids. It's not safe.
Yeah.
1 and you're done. Don't play with concussions.
All right, so let's move on to baseball.
Yeah.
We haven't talked baseball in a while. It's getting exciting.
Playoffs right around the corner. October.
The Braves have clinched.
Yep.
But it's looking very, very likely that the Nationals are going to get the wild card. Whether it's the first or second one, whatever, doesn't really matter. Just home field, I guess. But there's been a lot of talks about who should start the wild card game between Strasburg and Scherzer. So just right off the bat, what are your initial thoughts? Strasburg versus Scherzer. What does your gut say?
We had some pre-discussion, so I know you're going to come at me with all your mumbo-jumbo baseball stats, but I'm going with the guy. I'm going with the best pitcher in the last 10 years of baseball, Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer's my guy.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought what's the counter argument?
Well, I think it's safe to say that either option is a good choice.
Okay.
I think the Nationals should be favored in that game regardless. But if we're talking straight up stats, the knock on Steven Strasburg is that he cannot stay healthy. You know who's leading the major leagues in innings pitched this year? Steven Strasburg. He's having an incredible year. He's 17-6, I believe, this year. I got it right here. 17-6. He's got a 3.37 ERA. He's pitched 203 innings. He didn't get the win, not last night, but 2 nights ago. He left with like a 4-1 lead. They blew it, and then they ended up winning. That's happened 2 or 3 times already this year. He should have at least 20 wins already. The guy's a stud, and he's having arguably the best year of his career. Then you got Scherzer, who's coming off a little bit of an injury. I think he had like back inflammation was what they were calling it. He hasn't looked quite as good the last few games. He's given up 3 or 4 runs the last few games, not lasting as long into it. Are they holding him back? But you're right. He has that it factor we were talking about. Like Max Scherzer, you remember 2 years ago, Nationals were in the playoffs. I think it was an elimination game. I want to say against the Dodgers. And the Nationals, I think, had the lead, and they brought in Scherzer from the bullpen. And it was like, oh man, this is awesome. He's going to close the door. Game over. We got the best pitcher in all baseball. And he went in there and he gave up the lead. Yep. And then it was like, well, it's not his typical routine. He was already tired. He's like on 2 or 3 days rest. So you can't blame him. But you can't blame the manager for putting in the best player in the league. I personally, this year, I would go Strasburg.
I would not. I'd go Scherzer. I go just if Max Scherzer walks in the room, I look him in the eyes. I know he's going to tell me he wants the ball, and I just believe him. I believe he believes it.
You don't think Strasburg wants the ball?
I think he wants the ball. There's something about Max. There's something deep in the back of Max's multicolored eyes that tell me this guy's going to do something great every time he touches the baseball.
I think he's the best pitcher.
I also think I'm not knocking Strasburg at all. Amazing pitcher, but I just have a feeling that Max can dig deeper to something way down inside of him and go get it. When I look at him, I don't know, you go off, blink subtleties you see from people you've seen before. I see this as a guy who's like going to go out there and get a job done. And like you said, it hasn't always worked out before, but I would just, it's a trust factor for me. If I didn't know any of the stats, if I just looked at him in the face, I'd be like, I think this guy can go win a baseball game.
See, the tricky part is like in theory, you think you could go like almost like little leaguers do it, right? Like this guy goes 3 innings, then you bring in your next best pitcher, he goes in 3 innings.
We've been seeing that in the playoffs lately.
I don't think you can. Doesn't work as well. Starting pitchers have their routines. Every baseball player has their routine.
It's worked. It worked for the Red Sox last year.
It's just tough. I think if you ask like Scherzer to go the first 6, Strasburg to finish off the last 3. Mm-hmm. I think in theory it's good. I just think you're throwing off the entire routine. I think you're setting yourself up for unexpected outcomes.
I think I think in certain situations it will, in certain situations it won't. Probably based off how much routine they are.
So if you're the Nationals and you know that your bullpen has been kind of the weakest part of the team, right? Like you're scoring a good amount of runs, your starting pitching's usually giving you the lead, and the bullpen is just struggling to keep the leads. You're thinking, we got wild card game, we got to win 1 game. I want somebody that can get me 7, hopefully 8 innings, and our offense just goes off, gets us 5, 6, 7 runs.
Yeah, you're beating a dead horse, though. I want Scherzer.
Strasburg's leading the league in innings pitched.
That doesn't help you in a one-game matchup.
We could look, and I think Scherzer, I'm not sure he's gone over 6 innings
in
the last
pitch does not help
months.
you. And when you're asking me who would I want for 1 game, knowing that someone's gone more innings throughout the season doesn't help me in this situation.
Sure does. It shows you that he's consistently gone longer into games than other pitchers.
No, Max missed a ton of time with the rhomboid injury. That's what it. You don't think
So
Max
that makes
can
you think he's going to last longer because he's got a rhomboid injury still working off?
No, you're saying that the innings pitcher because he went deeper into games. No, Max started.
I'm saying he leads not just against Scherzer out of any pitcher in baseball. He's pitched more innings.
I'm aware. He's stayed healthy all year and pitched a long time. I don't think that makes me want him more than Max right now.
I don't know. It's either way.
We're beating it. We're just agree to disagree.
Yeah, agree. But I would not be upset if you said Davey Martinez, if he put in Max Scherzer, I'd say makes sense, best pitcher in the league. But I think right now, pitching wise, Strasburg's hotter.
Okay, you're killing me.
All right, let's get Alex Cruz on the horn.
Alex Cruz, physical therapist, had a history of working with me and Will. We know him well. He's a good PT. We're going to see if we can get him on the line. Bring up the question while we're waiting for Alex to see if we can't get him on the line.
Also, comment either on Facebook Live, email us, Will and Marks HSO. Tell us who you think, Scherzer or Strasburg. All right, we got Alex Cruz on the line. How's it going, Alex?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Good to speak to you guys.
Yeah, if possible, if you could talk a little bit louder, that would be awesome.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I got into a little quiet room, so let me know if this is okay.
That should be, I think we're good.
All right.
Okay.
So we got a patient question for you, and we thought you were the right person to bring in, all right?
Cool.
So I'm just going to read it verbatim. It's another one.
Just, Alex, just where are you working right now? And
Give you a little background.
just give us a background on you. What do you specialize in sort of as a PT, and what are you doing for work right now? And then we'll get the question.
So I'm a physical therapist. Been working for a couple years. Actually, started working with you guys, and up in Northern Virginia recently. Moved to Dallas area, more specifically moved over to Frisco, and now working around there in a sports medicine clinic, a little smaller than what I'm used to, but loving every second of it.
Do you have any specialties in physical therapy?
Specialties, I think it's a strong word. I want to say that my niche is more sports rehabilitation or general orthopedics, and I utilize everything that the Institute of Physical Art has taught me, and things that I've kind of learned along the way. A lot of taping techniques.
Great.
I've actually taken a few McKenzie courses.
The taping
mechanical diagnoses. That fits right in the boat.
The taping techniques segues right into why we brought you on the show, Alex.
Awesome.
All right, so Tom, another one from Tom. Tom had a two-parter from Severna Park, Maryland.
Cool.
He said, I see everyone using kinesiology tape now. What is the benefit and which color works best?
So I think the color question, was that the question number one? Was that the full question?
Yes.
That was the full question,
question.
So I'll jump to the color. So I think the colors really depends on the person. If the person feels better with a green, go with a green. If they just feel worse with a purple, don't do purple. I think taping, there's a lot of placebo behind it. I will be the one to admit that, but in terms of, I think you guys admit that we're kind of peas of the same pod in terms of the Institute of Physical Art and kind of what we teach to our patients. But when you think of taping, I kind of go through the three realms of the Institute of Physical Art. When we talk about mechanical, neuromuscular, and motor control capacity, I think taping can actually address all three realms pretty well, in terms of, if you want to get down to it, in terms of mechanical capacity, I think taping is a way to, number one, just neurodynamics, fluid dynamics, it's a way to kind of modify and manage some of that stuff.
Alex, break down for us I know you can't speak because every individual is different, but are there any conditions that you see come into the clinic that you're like, oh, this is someone I'm looking at to use some kinesiotape on, and why you're using it for that condition?
So I would use tape. So if they come in and you're looking like neuromuscularly, they're not as efficient. They're just a little bit off. Sometimes the tape can just proprioceptively give an input that allows them to move a little bit better. So say, I would say in terms of that, I use it a lot on just knee stability and shoulder stability. When you think about the amount of stability that's required in the shoulder,
trying to give them getting proprioception you're getting proprioception from the tape to improve stability of the joints.
Exactly.
I like the
and I
answer.
think it comes down to, what kind of input does that patient need to, to kind of influence the central nervous system. Sometimes it's PNS for a lot of patients. Sometimes it's, manual therapy. Sometimes I think a piece of tape can do the job. So slapping a piece of tape can sometimes talk to the brain, allow the brain to adapt and become more plastic. And, at the end of the day, sometimes it kick a
Beautiful.
little bit neuromuscularly to improve function.
Yep. Beautiful. So if you're going to put tape on yourself, what color so we can give Tom a solid answer? If it's for you.
A solid answer. So I'll tell you, I use rock tape. I like rock tape because of the fabric it has. In terms of color, probably not a specific color, but I will tell you that if you get the rock tape and you get the tape with lettering in it, it's actually made of a different material where patients actually like it better. It actually stays on a little longer.
Gotcha.
And just the adhesive is a little different. If I were to give a recommendation, get the ones with the logo.
Okay, and the different colors, they have different strengths to them, no?
Not from what I'm aware of.
Okay.
I'll tell you that the ones with the logo, though, they do feel a little firmer when you stretch it. I will say that. But in terms of, there's no resistance in terms of, levels or color.
Alex, for the person not familiar with Kinesiotape, just talk to us about the difference between athletic tape and Kinesiotape. So
an athletic tape, you mean like a more restricted type of taping?
Exactly, yeah.
So, an athletic tape where you've probably seen this more in athletic training offices, but when you're trying, when you get injured and say you sprain an ankle, I would probably go more for an athletic tape that is more built to kind of keep the area solid, just to prevent excess motion and just to promote the healing aspect of things.
Alex, what is
the stability nature?
Alex, what is the Kinesiotape doing that's different? What's the sales pitch for Kinesiotape? What's it do to the body?
What does it do? So it moves with you. It is not geared. It is not meant to restrict motion, and it's meant to go with your motion.
Yeah.
So it works to. It just promotes It just promotes movement. It promotes better movement with the tape on there. I'm a believer that if you can talk to the skin, you can talk to the brain and create change.
Anything on
I think the tape does.
Anything on lymphatic drainage? That lifting theory, that's a theory that maybe it does a little bit. Any feelings on that?
I will say that if there's anything that taping has, or the theory behind taping, if there's anything that is proven it does lift the skin a little bit to create more space to allow fluid to drain in and out a little bit easier, to create more of a system to promote circulation. That's what I would say. I would say that if there's anything that is proven for sure, is that if there is a lifting technique that if you apply correctly, you're able to promote that circulation.
Generally speaking, when you say this is something, if a regular person who's not trained in, origins and insertions of where muscles attach to bones and things like that, is it something just a regular person can buy off the shelf and then just put it on themselves and they'll feel better, or are there certain techniques that they need to learn first? They need to see a physical therapist, or can they, Google search where to put the tape?
Yeah, I think we live in a day and age where you can get a lot of information online, and as long as if you're able to find a resource, you get the tape. If you apply it and it feels better, hey, go for it. You don't need a therapist to certainly apply it. But, I think the buy-in sometimes with tape is everything that the tape provides, along with the education behind it, to create that buy-in, to create a little bit of that more placebo nature within the tape, where there's just a little bit more buy-in. So, that's what I would say might be the difference. But, of course, I don't think you can go wrong by applying it yourself. I don't think you can hurt yourself. But, the guidance of a physical therapist is probably more beneficial.
Alex, how's your fantasy team doing?
Not too good.
Who's hurting you? Who's helping you?
Antonio Brown hurt me a whole bunch. I don't have a solid bench. The only thing I do have going for me is I think Dak Prescott's going to be strong all year long.
I would agree with that. Says the man from Dallas right now.
I got him in every single one of my leagues. I got Dak Prescott in every single one, and I'm feeling pretty happy about that one. Antonio Brown took me for a loop. I really believed that he was going to stay in New England, and before I knew it, he was cut. And I certainly don't think he's going to get picked up. I think he just enrolled in school, and
Central Michigan,
trying to finish. I think he's just enrolling into the next semester. So we'll see.
We were talking earlier, Mark and I. What sort of qualifications does Antonio Brown like? You think he just got in, based on like, does he submit an application just like everybody else, or how does he get in?
I'm sure there's a loophole. I'm sure he knows someone where he's able to get, pretty direct access. But who knows? Maybe he went through the application process just like everyone else and has to wait for a response. But I got a little chuckle out of that when I think there was a photo that surfaced that shows which class he's taking. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Do you want to be the school that markets that they gave Antonio Brown his education? I don't know if you want to be that school right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd make that public right now. But
The Chippewas, Central Michigan University Chippewas. Good name.
We had an interesting conversation. So we were talking about, I asked Mark, if Antonio Brown never plays again in the NFL, is he a Hall of Famer? And Mark immediately said yes. I don't think I see him as a Hall of Famer yet. I think he was close. I think he needs a couple more seasons under his belt to where numbers would add up with him being a Hall of Famer. What do you think, Alex?
I think I'm split. I think his talent is worthy enough to be in the Hall of Fame. He's got a ring. I think this whole drama, I think that has just put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths where the NFL just goes right around and says, forget this guy. I don't think we should honor him with a speech and a statue.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that statue. I'd like to see that golden head. Hope maybe they do the mustache. Maybe they do the little rat tail.
I think if the sexual assault cases get dropped and he's found innocent or at least not found guilty, he's going to be in the NFL again. I think he'll have a change of mind. Teams will definitely be offering him another chance.
I really hope he plays in the XFL. I want to see him in the XFL.
I want to believe that. I do believe that his talent is too good to just not get picked up again. I think he just controls his own destiny. I mean, you would think that a guy is going to reflect after this whole situation and just maybe change, but I don't know if he's just too full of himself. If he continues down this path, I don't think he ends up on a team for too long. But if he changes and he wants to change and he's still productive, then I think certainly someone might give him a chance, especially if he's found innocent.
It kind of brings up the question, well, what really constitutes somebody being in the Hall of Fame? Like, does negative publicity hurt your chances of getting in the Hall of Fame, or is it objectively, are we just talking about football? Because if we're just talking about football, his numbers are similar, slightly worse, but very, very close to Calvin Johnson's. And I think most people agree that Calvin Johnson should be in the NFL. Calvin played less seasons than Antonio Brown, I believe.
Calvin's first ballot. Antonio should be first ballot. He won't be because of the media stuff. He'll be the same as T.O.
I was about to bring up T.O. I mean, look what they did to him.
He got in, though. That's the same thing's going to happen.
I think they turn around and they do Antonio Brown a little dirtier than they did with him. I don't think T.O. was so much of a nuisance like he was, but I think we have to wait and see. We have to see how this all plays out. If he ends up, with some redemption down the line, or if he totally decides to call it quits, I guess we got to wait and see.
He
hurt me. He definitely hurt my team, though. I'm kind of disappointed.
If you're the Ravens GM and Antonio Brown calls you, he's found innocent, and he says, hey, I want to be a Raven, I want to take it to the Patriots and the Steelers, you take him or no?
Man, I would have to sit down with him first, have a conversation with him, see if there's any remorse over that whole situation, see if there was any more to that story with the Patriots than we know. But consider his cousin's out there. His cousin's in Baltimore, and that Baltimore's strongest rivals end up being the Steelers and the Patriots. And I think that would be the perfect way for Antonio Brown to stick it to them, is to show them that he's not only changed, but that he's still productive and that they missed out. I wouldn't pay him any guaranteed money. I would probably make sure it's the minimum and only for a chance of redemption. Anything more than that, I probably wouldn't be interested. But I would entertain the thought. I mean, I think with Lamar Jackson, and you think of how we're doing in the passing game, you start to add, an Antonio Brown out there that can only make us a little bit better. But it's got to be without the off-field drama involved.
Yep, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, unless he changes, which I don't see happening.
Okay.
I would trade for Jalen Ramsey, though. I would send a few picks over.
So we just talked about...
Considering how Mahomes torched us over the weekend.
Did you see what the Ravens offered him?
No, they did decline it, though. I think, what did they offer him?
2 first-rounders and Hayden Hurst, a former first-round pick that we took.
Yeah, that's.
a
I
lot.
don't think the Jags are interested in trading him. I think they're pretty sold on trying to keep him.
Well, Mark said he called in sick today.
He did. It's reported he called in sick out of practice today.
I think I saw that.
So we'll see what happens.
It's an interesting question. So if you are the Jaguars, right? Like, do they have playoff hopes at this point? Like, if I'm the Jaguars and I know Jalen Ramsey wants to be traded and we're going to make a trade for him, I'm not playing him on Sundays. I'm saying this is my biggest asset right now. We're going to get potentially 3 first-round picks. I'm not going to risk any injury to where now Jalen Ramsey is no longer an asset to these other teams. So I would sit him. I would not play him during these games.
I think it shows that they want to win, and they've got the shoe. They're going to win.
They have him. I think they're motivated to do something with this guy under center.
Yeah.
Minshew is
Love
think he's
it.
a game changer.
So if Nick Foles comes back, Minshew's still your guy?
No, I think Minshew I think gets a lot of momentum moving forward.
He's got to keep it up.
He's already the new Baker Mayfield.
He's got to keep it up. But yeah, he could keep
Mark
the job.
is a humongous, I don't know if he still is, but before the season, a big Browns fan this year. He said Baker Mayfield was going to have career year. What a dud, huh?
Yeah, I said I'm rooting for the Browns this year. I never said he's going to have a career year.
You said Baker's the guy to have. He's a huge. You sold me on him a little bit.
I have 13.
I picked him up.
I have 13
I
fantasy
was sold on
teams.
the
I
Browns for a
own
little
Baker
bit.
Mayfield on 0 of them. I'm still rooting for him. Yeah, no, he's still going to play well. Yeah, he has not played well, but yeah, it wasn't for
So
fantasy value. Kidding me? I was taking Carson Wentz over Baker.
So you're going to tell me Baker Mayfield is a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky?
Definitely. Yeah,
That makes 0 sense to me.
we're not watching the Monday night game right now. How's he doing?
I don't know, but that makes 0 sense to me. We saw Baker Mayfield come in, have a good second half of the year, right? When he started, teams weren't prepared for him. Now they're prepared for him, not doing well. Lamar Jackson, incredible. He's.
Oh, incredible.
It's not close to me. Baker's much better than Trubisky.
I disagree.
I would agree with that. I would agree that Baker's on a different level than Trubisky.
How can you guys say that?
We don't know why you like Trubisky. He stinks.
Why are you saying he's 6? He's a Pro Bowler in his second year. He's a young guy.
Yeah.
Baker went in his rookie year.
Huh?
Baker went to the Pro Bowl in his rookie year. He threw more in his rookie
He's
year.
having a second year letdown.
I think he's thrown more touchdowns in his rookie year than Trubisky's thrown in his
Is he
career.
having a second year letdown? Would you say that he's having this year is just as good as last year?
Just like Aaron Rodgers. RELAX, relax. It's 3 games worth.
He looks bad. That's all I'm saying.
Trubisky might be playing well right now. 100 yards on touchdown, not bad.
Does that say 13 to 15? Is that pretty good
Trubisky
percentage-wise?
Well,
doesn't want to win. He doesn't want to make any mistakes. He's too cautious.
playing the Redskins, you know.
I think a lot of quarterbacks don't want to make mistakes. If you're going to knock a quarterback for not wanting to make a mistake,
Fantasy points rest of the season. Trubisky versus Mayfield. Me and you. Another
I'm
bet.
saying he's a better quarterback. I'm saying fantasy-wise, the Bears system does not make Trubisky fantasy relevant that often. Although last year he was fantasy relevant. The
What's the
system
Bears-
is set up for them. They pound the ball.
Oh,
And they do a lot of short screens, which I guess can help Trubisky a little bit.
Okay.
But he's a game manager for that team. That defense is what carries that team. He just needs to go out there. 14 points, that game might as well be over.
We'll see what the Redskins do. I'll take the bet. Give me Browns better record than Bears end of the season. But if it's a tie, I win because their record's already better.
We're just saying Bears will have a better record than the Browns. By
I'm
the end
saying
of the year.
Browns.
Yeah, I'm saying
led by
Bears.
Bay. Okay, but
Oh,
if
100%.
they're both 9-7, I get the win
Oh yeah,
because we're down already. Okay, yep, another bet.
another bet.
It's official.
Okay, all right, Alex. Any other fantasy insights or takes that you want to get out there to everybody? The league is probably listening in.
I listen every week, and it's always nice to get a glimpse into your guys' window and just see what my opponent's doing. So, probably not gonna give you guys any secrets of what's in my mind right now. But,
Yep. Bill Belichick
leave it
us.
at that.
Who's on the? You got anybody that you're looking to trade?
Yeah, who's on the trade block?
Yeah. I think I could try to make some trade. I don't have any tight ends. I need a tight end.
Okay,
So,
Willie, get out there. Send some tight end trades over to Cruz.
OJ Howard coming your
tight
way.
ends.
What's your team name?
Hey, send it over. I got Jimmy Graham is my number 2 option, I think. Not even a viable option, really. And my number 1 is, I can't even tell you who it is. I picked them off waivers, so I'm struggling.
You got Witten.
So-
It's Witten.
You got the 2
Oh,
oldest
yeah,
tight ends in the
Witten's
league.
not bad.
You got the
Witten's not bad. He'll get a touchdown.
Geriatric tight ends. Yep. Send tight ends over to Dirty Bird.
There you go.
All right. Thanks,
Appreciate
Alex.
it, guys. Hey, no problem. Always good to speak to you.
All right. See you, man.
See ya.
All right.
All right. So
Was great to get insight from Alex on Kinesiotape. But I want to just come back around and give me your feelings on it. Do you use it? Do you see a value in it?
I do use it, not that often.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times if I'm doing it, I'll use it for like kinesthetic awareness. So
Same as Alex is saying.
yeah, kind of like, for example, everybody knows as we age, as our posture gets poorer, we kind of round our shoulders. We kind of get in that slump posture. Well, you can kind of set the shoulder down and back in a good position and then put some kinesiotape on there. And then when you kind of come out of that position, you'll start to feel
tugs
that
on
you're
you.
moving forward. So I'll use it for that occasionally, but I don't use it as much. I mean, Alex himself saying a lot of placebo effects. I'm all for placebo effects, but
We're big on, we love when, if the goal is to get rid of pain and we get a placebo to work, we'll take it all day. I don't use it a whole ton. It's one of those things where every once in a while I'll get a little something strained and I'll throw something on there and be like, hey, you know what, that kind of does feel good. Maybe I should be using it more. I think there is probably a lot of placebo effect. It's very marketable. I don't think anybody heard of it before Walsh wore it, the volleyball player in the Olympics.
oh yeah.
And I heard some backstory stuff that was all market. Like they didn't actually have an injury; they were just getting it on them to market it. I think it's cool to throw it over a bruise on a patient, and the pattern you do the wave pattern over a bruise, and it pulls some of the bruise out.
That's cool.
It looks cool.
I
It
can
definitely
tell you-
looks cool, right? We're all agreed that it looks cool.
That's the big thing. We'll have these high school and middle school athletes come in and they want kinesio. They don't care what you're doing with the
Every once in a
kinesiotape.
while. I also think I just know some kinesiotape instructors who really value some more things on it. Maybe we can have them on at some point. But they would disagree with Alex that a lot of the instructors that I've talked to do think that you have to tape insertion to origin, whether you want to have the muscle facilitate or if you're trying to like if you got an irritated muscle, you want to go origin to insertion to take the tension off of it, or insertion to origin. So there is definitely a thought that you do need to see a professional to have this stuff applied. We're all for it, but we're not the guys to come see if you want to get kinesiotaped.
Yeah.
We'll do it, but we'll
like,
send you to Cruz down in Dallas if you really want it.
like any other, new thing or taping things like
Fads,
that.
yeah,
it's not a
things
fix,
come-
right? Like there's still got to work on motor control. You still got to work on.
I like what Alex said
improving whatever
about
you
it,
need to do,
helping
so.
some motor control. I'm not against it. We're sitting right on the fence. We'll take it. We'll leave it.
All right.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Send us questions. We're getting some questions, so keep them coming. willandmarkshso@gmail.com.
Can they send us questions on Facebook?
Yeah, they can comment on Facebook. They can.
Comment on Facebook if you want to send questions that way too. We're looking for physical therapy questions, sports questions. Fantasy football's big for us right now. Anything on life. You want Will and Mark's perspective, we'll talk to you about anything.
And I definitely want people to comment either on this video or somewhere. Scherzer or Strasburg, who you got?
One game.
One game, yeah. Wild card playoff. You're the manager. Who you putting in?
People are taking Scherzer.
It's
Okay.
not a bad option. And then again, we'll be at Glory Days
This Sunday.
in Alexandria. We hope to see you there. And
Around noontime, a little before the games. Come play some games with us. See you there. All right.
All right.
Over and out.